So the first tip would be to utilize the feature of having different calendars, because then you can remove items that you don't want to see all the time if they're in that calendar. So for example, in this example student, I have their class schedule, office hours of their professors for that semester, personal items and self-care, and study blocks and assignments. There's also a tasks feature, and we'll talk more about that later. So the first step would really be adding in all of your classes and other events that don't move on a weekly basis. From there, you'll want to factor in your self-care. When are you going to eat lunch based on your class schedule? When are you going to go to the gym and shower? And other events that might be happening throughout the week, you can add to your personal calendar. It's important to factor in your self-care and make that a priority, because as your schedule begins to fill in, usually the first thing to go is that self-care. So if that means that you go on a weekly walk on Mondays, then factor that in first, make that a priority for the rest of the semester. It's really helpful to have office hours as a separate schedule, because you don't always want to see that at all times throughout the semester. But if you need to go visit a professor, it's easy to be able to just click and see when they're available and when you might be able to see them based on your availabilities. Lastly, you can add in some study blocks and assignments as a separate calendar. So I'm going to turn off office hours because I don't need to see them. And so based on when the student has classes, when their personal and self-care events are happening, you can see these big chunks of time that can be utilized for dedicated study blocks. So to create an event, you can click anywhere on the calendar, or you can click plus create event. I think it's easier just to click on the calendar where you want that event to be. Now you'll notice that I have the option of what calendar to add this to. So if I'm utilizing having different calendars, I don't want to add my study block to my class schedule. I'm going to add it to my study blocks and assignments calendar. You can change the color of events. So here I've decided to color code based on class. And so if I'm going to make an econ study block, then I want to use the color I'm using for all of my other econ related events, which in this case is the basil green. And so when I see green, I know that that means econ. When you're creating an event, you can add a location. So maybe if you know for sure that you want to spend that in the library, this is really handy for early on in the semester when you're saying where all of your classes are. You can invite guests. So if you were going to do a group study, you could invite one of your classmates via their CNU email address. You can have this repeat. So if I want this to happen every week on Friday, I can say that. I can also set some custom repeats to be every other week or multiple days throughout the week, and I can have this end at the end of the semester. The nice thing about creating an event is that you can set notifications. So if I want to be reminded about this study block, make sure I'm making my way to the library 10 minutes before, 15 minutes before, maybe I really need a half an hour to kind of get motivated and get out the door. But if you are using this to put in your assignments, you can do one day before, and you can customize to be as far before that event as possible. You can set an email. So if this is a paper, maybe I want to get an email 3 days before it's due. And then maybe I want to get a notification to my phone 1 hour before it's due, just to make sure I actually proofread it and turned it in. Another cool feature about Google is this tasks option. You can access it from your right menu bar while you're in any Google platform, whether it's Calendar, Gmail, Google Drive, etc. So it's a blue check mark, and you can turn tasks on to make them visible when you're in Google Calendar. You can add a task straight from this menu here, or you can even click on your calendar and make it a task instead of an event. You can set tasks to repeat. So I have an example here of a weekly discussion board, and then you can mark as complete from here or from your taskbar. It's worth taking the time early in the semester to map out your course schedule, where all of your classes are located, get some color coding in there so that your brain starts associating colors with those classes, and also taking the time to go through your course schedules for all of your assignments and putting those in from the jump. Creating assignments as events in Google Calendar is really nice because you can create those reminders so that you don't have to rely on your brain to remember to do it, and you can keep it all in one place. If you have any questions about how to maximize the use of your Google Calendar, please feel free to reach out to the Center for Student Success. We'd be more than happy to help you set it up and make sure that you have a successful semester.